Welcome back to my channel, where we uncover the hidden value in everyday coins. Today, we're diving into one of the most unique wheat pennies in U.S. history, value in today's market in dollars. First up, the 1946 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, and discussing its value in today's market when the coin is in fine condition. The 1946 Lincoln wheat penny was minted just after World War II, during a time when the United States was returning to normal production. A penny from 1946 without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia produced a very large number of these coins, which makes them common compared to rare key-date wheat pennies. Because of this high mintage, value depends almost entirely on condition and eye appeal. On the front of the coin, you see Abraham Lincoln's portrait with the date 1946 clearly visible below. The reverse shows the familiar wheat ears on each side, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This classic wheat design is one of the main reasons collectors enjoy these coins, even when they are not highly valuable. When a coin is described as being in fine condition, it means there is moderate wear from circulation, but most of the main details are still visible. Lincoln's portrait should be clear, with some flattening on the high points. The wheat stalks on the reverse are usually worn but still recognizable. If the coin also has some scratches, this further affects its value, as collectors prefer coins without surface damage. In today's market, a 1946 no-mint mark wheat penny in fine condition typically sells for a modest premium over face value. Without scratches, a fine example may be worth around $200. However, when scratches are present, the value usually stays on the lower end of that range. Most scratched examples sell for about $250, depending on how noticeable the scratches are and overall eye appeal. Even though the coin is made mostly of copper, the copper value alone does not significantly increase the price unless copper prices rise dramatically. For most collectors, this coin is valued more for its historical significance than its metal content. Because so many were made, demand is limited unless the condition is much higher. There are situations where a 1946 wheat penny can be worth more. Coins in uncirculated condition with original red color can sell for several dollars. In addition, genuine mint errors, such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or double dies, can raise the value significantly even if the coin has some wear. These errors are uncommon, so careful inspection is important. First up, the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny with a D mint mark, and discussing its value in today's market in dollars, especially in extra fine condition. The 1942 wheat penny with a D mint mark was struck at the Denver Mint. During this time, the United States was deeply involved in World War II, and coin production played an important role in everyday commerce. In 1942, most pennies were still made of bronze, which is a copper-based alloy, making these coins popular not only with collectors, but also with people interested in copper content. On the front of the coin, you will see the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, along with the date 1942 and the small D mint mark just below the date. The back features the classic wheat ears design, with 1 cent and United States of America in the center. This design was used until 1958 and remains a favorite among collectors of all levels. The Denver Mint produced a large number of 1942 wheat pennies, so this coin is not considered rare in general. However, condition still plays a major role in determining value. An extra fine condition coin means that there is light wear on the high points, but most details are still sharp and clear. Lincoln's hair and coat lines are visible, and the wheat ears on the reverse show good detail. Some scratches, as mentioned, do count as damage, but light scratches are common for coins that have been handled over many years. In today's market, a 1942 D wheat penny in extra fine condition typically has a modest collector value. With some scratches, the value is usually lower than a clean extra fine example, but it is still worth more than face value. Most coins in this condition sell for around $150,000, depending on eye appeal and the severity of the scratches. If the scratches are light and do not heavily distract from the overall look, it may be closer to the higher end of that range. If the coin were in uncirculated condition with no scratches and original luster, the value could be several dollars. However, scratches reduce collector demand, especially among more advanced collectors. Still, many collectors are happy to own slightly imperfect coins as affordable examples of historic pieces. There are also rare error varieties from 1942, such as doubling or planchet errors, which can be worth much more. These are uncommon, and most 1942D wheat pennies do not have such features. If you notice unusual doubling, missing letters, or odd shapes, it may be worth further inspection. Next up, the 1935 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark, and discussing its value in today's market when the coin is in damaged condition. The 1935 Lincoln wheat penny belongs to the famous wheat cent series that was produced from 1909 until 1958. A penny from 1935 with no mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During that year, Philadelphia produced a very large number of pennies, which means this coin is considered common. Because of the high mintage, value depends almost entirely on condition rather than rarity. On the front of the coin, you will see the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Below Lincoln's image is the date 1935. On the reverse side, there are two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This design is very popular with collectors and is one of the most recognizable penny designs in U.S. history. When a 1935 wheat penny is described as being in damaged condition with scratches, it usually means the coin has seen a lot of circulation and possibly some rough handling. Scratches, surface marks, discoloration, or light corrosion all lower the collector value. Coins with damage are less desirable because collectors prefer examples that show minimal wear and no problems. In today's market, a 1935 no mint mark wheat penny in damaged condition is typically worth only a small amount above face value. Most scratched or worn examples sell for around $300. If the scratches are deep, the surfaces are rough, or the coin has corrosion, the value may be closer to just tens of dollars, mainly based on its copper content. These pennies are made of mostly copper, but damage prevents them from bringing strong prices. If the coin were in much better condition, such as uncirculated or with strong original color, the value would be higher, sometimes reaching a few dollars. However, once scratches and damage are present, collectors usually pass unless the price is very low. That is why condition is so important in coin collecting. There are exceptions to this rule. If a 1935 wheat penny, even a damaged one, has a genuine and obvious mint error, it can be worth much more. Errors such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or major doubling can attract strong collector interest. In those cases, value can rise into the tens or even hundreds of dollars, depending on the error and its visibility. Next up, the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, and discussing its value in today's market when the coin is in very fine condition. The 1944 wheat penny was produced during World War II, a very important period in U.S. history. Unlike the 1943 steel cents, the 1944 penny was made mostly of copper again, using recycled shell casings from the war. A 1944 penny without a mint mark means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia produced a very large number of these coins, which is why they are widely available today. On the front of the coin, you will see Abraham Lincoln's portrait with the date 1944 below it. On the back, the classic wheat ears surround the words 1 cent and United States of America. This wheat design is one of the reasons these coins remain popular among collectors of all ages. When a coin is described as being in very fine condition, it means there is still clear detail visible. Lincoln's hair and facial features are mostly sharp, and the wheat ears on the reverse are well defined, though there is noticeable wear from circulation. Some scratches are common for coins that were used in everyday transactions, and light scratches usually do not completely destroy collector value, but they do lower it compared to problem-free examples. In today's market, a 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny in very fine condition with some scratches typically has a modest value. Most examples like this sell for around $200,000, depending on eye appeal and the severity of the scratches. Coins with fewer marks and better color tend to be on the higher end of that range. If the scratches are deep or distracting, the value may drop closer to the lower end. It is important to understand that while the 1944 wheat penny is historic, it is not rare in normal condition. Millions were saved by the public, and many still exist today. That is why condition and originality matter so much. Clean, scratch-free coins with strong detail are always more desirable to collectors. There are rare exceptions that can be worth much more, such as the famous 1944 steel penny error, which was accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943. Those coins are extremely rare and can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. However, a normal copper 1944 penny, even in very fine condition, does not fall into that category. Next up, the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny with a D mint mark, and discussing its value in today's market when the coin is in good condition. The 1942 Lincoln wheat penny was minted during World War II, which already gives it historical importance. When you see a small D mint mark below the date, it means the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. In 1942, the Denver Mint produced a large number of wheat pennies, so this coin is not considered rare, but it is still widely collected because of its age and classic design. On the front of the coin, you'll see Abraham Lincoln's portrait with the date 1942 and the D mint mark just below it. The back features the familiar wheat ears design with the words 1 cent and United States of America. This design is loved by collectors and is one of the reasons wheat pennies remain popular today. Now let's talk about condition. A coin described as being in good condition usually means it has noticeable wear from circulation. Lincoln's portrait may be smooth in places, and fine details like hair and coat lines may be worn down. If the coin also has some scratches, that tells us it has seen a lot of use over the years. Scratches, even light ones, reduce collector value because they are considered damage, even if the coin is still clearly identifiable. In today's market, a 1942 D wheat penny in good condition with some scratches typically sells for around $35. In some cases, it may reach up to about $2,000 if it has decent eye appeal despite the wear. However, it is unlikely to be worth much more unless it is in much better condition or has a special feature. Most collectors are willing to pay only a small premium over face value for a worn and scratched example. That said, there are exceptions that can increase value. The 1942 wheat penny is known for a few interesting varieties and errors. For example, rare mint errors like off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or strong doubling can make a coin far more valuable even if it has scratches or wear. Also, some 1942 pennies were struck on the wrong metal planchets, though these are extremely rare and highly valuable. Finding one of these would be a major discovery. For a normal 1942 D wheat penny with no errors, realistic expectations are important. This coin is more about history and collecting enjoyment than high dollar value. It represents an important period in U.S. history and is a great addition to any beginner or intermediate wheat penny collection. Next up, the 1937 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, and discussing its value in today's market, especially in fine condition. The 1937 Lincoln wheat penny is part of the famous wheat cent series, produced from 1909 until 1958. A penny dated 1937 without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During that year, the Philadelphia Mint produced a very large number of pennies, which makes this coin fairly common compared to earlier wheat cents. Because of the high mintage, rarity alone does not make this coin valuable, so condition is the most important factor. On the front of the coin, you see the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. The date, 1937, appears below the portrait, and the words, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" complete the design. On the reverse, there are two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This iconic look is one of the reasons wheat pennies remain popular with collectors today. A coin described as being in fine condition usually shows moderate wear. Lincoln's facial features are still visible, but there is noticeable flattening on high points like the hair and cheek. On the reverse, the wheat lines are worn but still clear. When a fine condition coin also has some scratches, that does affect its value. Scratches are considered damage, even if the rest of the coin shows normal circulation wear. In today's market, a 1937 no mint mark wheat penny in fine condition generally has a modest value. Without scratches, such a coin might sell for around $300. However, when scratches are present, especially if they are noticeable, the value usually drops. With some scratches, most examples are realistically worth around $34. Heavy or deep scratches can push the value closer to thousands of dollars. Despite the lower value, this coin still has appeal. It is over 85 years old and represents a time when wheat pennies were everyday money in the United States. Many collectors enjoy keeping these coins as part of date sets or beginner collections, even if they are not in perfect condition. There are cases where a 1937 wheat penny can be worth much more, but those are exceptions. Coins with major mint errors, such as strong doubling, off-center strikes, or other unusual features, can be valuable even if they show wear. However, a normal 1937 penny with scratches and no errors should not be expected to bring high prices.
Next up, 1945 Lincoln wheat penny with the D mint mark, and we will talk about its value in today's market when the coin is in extremely fine condition. The 1945 Lincoln wheat penny was produced near the end of World War II, which makes it historically interesting. A D mint mark below the date means this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. In 1945, the Denver Mint produced millions of these pennies, so the coin is not rare, but it is still widely collected because of its age, copper composition, and classic wheat design. On the front of the coin, you see Abraham Lincoln's portrait with the date 1945 and the small D mint mark. The back features the familiar wheat ears design with 1 cent in the center. Because these coins were made of mostly copper, they tend to show wear and scratches easily after years of circulation. An extremely fine condition penny means that the coin still has strong detail. Lincoln's hair, coat, and facial features are mostly sharp, and the wheat lines on the reverse are clear and well-defined. However, the presence of some scratches lowers the overall value slightly because collectors prefer clean surfaces without marks or damage. In today's market, a 1945 D wheat penny in extremely fine condition without problems usually sells for around $190,000. When light scratches are present, the value often drops toward the lower end of that range. Most examples with visible scratches but still strong detail are commonly worth about thousands of dollars. The scratches prevent the coin from reaching higher collectible grades, but it still holds value above face value. Color also plays a role in price. Coins with more original reddish or red-brown copper color are generally more desirable. If the coin is turned dark brown or shows uneven toning due to scratches, that can reduce appeal slightly. Still, as long as the coin is not heavily damaged, bent, or corroded, it remains collectible. Like many wheat pennies, the real excitement comes from possible errors. A 1945 D wheat penny with a true mint error, such as doubling, off-center striking, or planchet defects, can be worth much more, even if scratches are present. Error coins are a separate category and can attract strong collector interest. It is important not to clean this coin. Cleaning will remove original surface details and often lowers the value more than scratches alone. Store the penny in a protective holder to prevent further damage and preserve its current condition. In summary, a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny with a D mint mark in extremely fine condition with some scratches is a solid collectible, but not a high-dollar coin. Its realistic value today is usually in the range of thousands of dollars. While it may not make you rich, it is still a great piece of American history and a worthy addition to any wheat penny collection.